Given that there is a level of complexity to achieve good exposure, it is worth ensuring some of the basic settings of the camera are correctly set for your photography session. Most digital SLR cameras will give you options for the image quality through the camera menu. The resolution setting is really contingent on the capacity of your memory card and the extent of post-production you are willing to do. Typically, try and select the best resolution setting possible for your session. If you are planning to be out all day taking photos around a new city, this may not be possible. A high image quality won't necessarily guarantee sharp and crisp images, as a lot of the resolution is contingent on the lighting conditions and the setting of your ISO. Most digital SLR cameras now give you the option to shoot in JPEG or RAW format. JPEG, or Joint Photographers Expert Group file format, is the most common used for all image capture and storage. JPEG provides a good balance between image information and file size. JPEG is also what is called a lossy format, in that if you downsize your image and resave them, you cannot get the data back and the image will drop the resolution and cannot be recovered. This is more relevant when you come to post-production in Photoshop. Most digital SLR cameras will also allow you to shoot in RAW format. RAW format is simply that, an unprocessed raw image. It contains all the data at the time of capture, so that when you open it up in an application such as Photoshop, you can make quite fine adjustments to the exposure. RAW format does not give you clearer images, and the RAW format is different between camera brands. In most computer operating systems, you cannot see a RAW image preview. So if you only shoot in RAW format, navigating through your images on your computer once you have downloaded them can be tricky. Most digital SLR cameras will provide a setting where you can save the photos or capture the photos in both RAW and JPEG format. If shooting RAW, we would recommend this function of dual formats, as it significantly improves your post-production experience. It should be noted that RAW format also takes up quite a bit of space on your memory card, almost 3 times more than a standard JPEG file, so you need to plan ahead in relation to your onboard memory if you intend taking RAW plus JPEG images. To give you an example on the level of control and adjustment of the RAW image, here is a screenshot of a very underexposed RAW image opened in Photoshop. In most applications such as Photoshop, a special image open interface will launch that gives you a wide range of adjustment options. Here you can see down the right hand sidebar that we have a broad range of controls from exposure and contrast, but it's settings like highlights, shadows, whites and blacks that give you control over the image that is not possible when trying to adjust a JPEG image in Photoshop. It can significantly improve your image exposure and improve the image quality. Though this is an extreme demonstration of what can be done when opening a RAW image, it does show the scope of image adjustments available in the RAW settings. We can really dial up the exposure and the whites and downplay the shadows and the blacks. Though we can now see the image clarity is not brilliant, though it is possible to rescue some under or overexposed images when using RAW format. It cannot recover images that are too much over or underexposed. The other settings that you should pay attention to at the start of a session is the white balance. White balance is the setting that compensates for the different colors of lighting. Daylight will have a different color shift or tone compared to incandescent or fluorescent light. Most cameras will have an automatic white balance setting, which in most instances does a reasonable job in predicting and compensating for different ambient light colors. Automatic white balance, though, is not bulletproof, and it is prudent to take some images to check to see how the white balance is working. If you are taking photos of your models using either LED or tungsten studio lights, the color cast will be quite distinct and perhaps too strong for the automatic setting. In these instances, it would be wise to dial up the appropriate white balance setting from the camera menu to make sure the color balance is correct. Though when shooting in RAW, you can correct the color balance to some degree. The way to get the best images is to try and get as much correct through the lens at the time of capture. In this demonstration, the prevailing light conditions were kept the same and the white balance settings were manually changed. Shifting to a fluorescent setting gives us a green color shift. If you are shooting under fluorescent lights and do not change the white balance, your images can tend to have a similar greenish or bluish hue. The effect of sodium lamps is similar to fluorescent light, but with a slightly different color cast. And in this final instance, we have dialed in a cloudy day white balance, which has resulted in a distinct yellow shift. The light in cloudy conditions can be quite blue, so we can see the camera is trying to compensate by adding some warmth to the color balance. So you can see, using the same exposure settings but varying the color balance can result in quite distinct images. Getting color balance right at the time of exposure will give you the best chance of getting the best possible image during post-production.